What about this big data and the role it's going to play in the provider world and the provider payer interface?
Yeah, we've just talked about the substrate for getting the app economy into healthcare, which will no doubt be transformative in the same way that the app economy has transformed, much of the rest of our lives, whether it's travel, banking, entertainment, sports, retail, all of those things. That will happen in healthcare. The arbitrage opportunities are too large. The other thing that we focused on with these APIs, we heard a lot of complaints, interestingly enough, that providers weren't able to get at their own data, interestingly enough. And that's from a computing standpoint and the history of EHRs, it's sort of understandable. These technologies have, histories and trajectories. But part of what we did, along with, is have FHIR, so fast healthcare interoperability resources. So these are the modern API class that uses, RESTful and JSON and modern internet techniques to actually have what we call, I probably should have named it something else, but talking with Ken Mandel and Boston Children's, we were talking about, and I called it, like a bulk API for bulk data. I was shocked to find out that all the prior work was for just one record at a time, which to me, as a database person, is like, what? You have a query that only returns one record? I mean, this was so unfathomably primitive to me that I couldn't even imagine it sort of happening. And so then the question was what to do to get that in as well. And that obviously, so working with folks, Ken Mandel, huge leadership here, a lot of other folks, Josh Mandel at Microsoft now, and HL7, we got through the bulk FHIR API, so it's part of version 4 of the HL7 FHIR standard, and we put it in as a requirement in the records. That will allow access to populations of patient data. Now, to be very clear, because I know the next question in people's mind is, what, they're just going to let me rummage around for data and EHRs on thousands of patients? No. So the individual right of access to, you put your smartphone at your provider's endpoint using the password you have for your portal, which is how that works under something called OAuth 2, a security protocol. That is under your individual HIPAA right of access. Most data that's moved in healthcare is actually moved for specific purposes of treatment payment operations by this concept of covered entities, so providers for the most part, and payers, and then third parties who are, quote, business associates. Those are all terms of art in the land of HIPAA. But the bottom line for the audience generally is any transmission of this data is a signed, written, accountable contract between people who have a clearly, legally defined role to this individually identified data. So as happens now, it's just making it more efficient. That's the underpinning, the bulk FHIR API. So that's the tech. So what does that mean? Well, I think everybody has seen TV, news clips, read some articles, but much of our world is fueled by big data. If you have used Google or Amazon, which I'm positive is 100% of your audience,